one of the last great mob movies, Martin Scorsese's 1995 classic, Casino. Depicts a story of greed and corruption in the city of sin, Las Vegas. What makes Casino a classic? The tale of paradise being won then lost through the paradigm of the gangster genre. Scorsese, DeNiro, and Pesci, still all in their primes, just about. Welcome to Mobflix Friday.
Tuesdays, mob movie Wednesdays, mob movie Mondays.
How does Casino hold up all these years later? Feel free to like and subscribe, and let's find out. Adapted from the true life story of the Midwestern mob skimming of Las Vegas casinos in the 1970s and early 80s. Despite having an East Coast feel, this is still the definitive movie on the power of the non-New York Midwestern mafia in the mid-late 20th century, with unforgettable performances all around.
You must have had a good time.
He's sitting by the phone like a dumbbell.
I know he did.
Scorsese brings us a mid-90s crime movie in a golden era of witty and punchy crime movies.
You're firing me?
I'm firing you. No, I'm not firing. I'm firing you.
Scorsese's masterful direction and quick editing is not Goodfellas 2 in the desert, but its own movie about the already corrupt being corrupted by life in the fast lane of America's Sin City, in one of Robert De Niro's last performances where Bobby D was still Bobby D.
Equal amount of blueberries in each muffin.
You will give him the chance.
These movies are the reason why the kids of the 90s were raised to love De Niro.
Know how long that's going to take?
I don't care how long it takes. Lady, why are you so interested in what I read or what I do?
As fans of De Niro may know, there's the 70s version of him,
I'm gonna pay him next week. I'm gonna pay you.
the 90s version,
You got money for that commercial, you know?
and then it was pretty much downhill thereafter.
There you go.
His performance as Sam Ace Rothstein, based on the real-life Frank Lefty Rosenthal, the Chicago Outfit's man in Vegas, to me is both a classic, and it is a classic.
Amazing.
But also, I'm sorry to say, a little bit frustrating.
But what did I tell you?
His kind of negative toxic chemistry with Sharon Stone as his wife Ginger,
The arrangement is over!
No kidding!
meshed with his unrelenting attention to detail, make this not just a great performance, but an iconic part of 90s pop culture, cementing a lot of my generation's opinion of De Niro as an all-time great. But, that accent, that f***ing accent.
You can't be serious. How can I walk away?
Good evening, everyone.
You gotta be on fucking TV with that accent.
Not only does he not try and put on a Chicago accent,
Asking me for a special favor.
and that movie's about characters from Chicago, the consummate method actor, and he doesn't even try and play down his own native New York accent,
Allow me that much.
With your method acting, with the breathing, with the bullshit.
which is insane considering in arguably his most iconic role, set in his native New York City, he plays down his own native accent for a more generic Midwestern accent.
Why won't you talk to me? Why don't you answer my calls when I call you?
The hell else are you talking? You talking to me?
He says, "You talking to me, not you talking to me."
If you talk to your uncle, that's it.
Considering a few years prior, he was in Backdraft, about firemen in Chicago, and he at least tries to play down his native accent
Open the inner door, but the outer door held and it waited for Tim.
without trying to do a super Dennis Farina impression.
I think when brains were being passed out, he was out to lunch, is what I think.
All I'm saying is this aspect of the movie plays into Hollywood's New York bias of American mob depictions. Pesci's attempt at a Chicago accent,
Stick it up your sister's ass.
we'll get to that. I just feel since Casino is a mob movie, De Niro feels like, no. I grew up in Lower Manhattan with these guys. I know this world like the back of my hand. I got this. Having said all of that, the real life Frank Rosenthal, originally from Chicago, sounds like a fucking charmless robot. He's boring.
Thank you very much for not calling me a liar. The chairman had the nerve to call me a liar.
And movies should be entertaining.
Something that's exciting and that's entertainment. A movie about a man staring at a wall watching paint dry.
And this guy really is like watching paint dry on a wall.
We have all had some...
That music from the real-life documentary Mob on the Run, that suits him to a T.
You're usually very vociferous when I don't have a chance to respond to you.
You get very vociferous. I am a robot. Barchiki bam boom, barchiki bam boom. And thus, De Niro New York Italians it up to the max.
Thanks for not calling me a liar. You
Good evening, everyone.
You son of a...
Cause I don't give two shits about you or nobody else.
Bobby D, the most New York Italian guy ever.
I hate that woman with a vengeance, a passion.
God forbid the other New York bosses are against us.
Dead.
Get lost for a while.
Check it out. Am I nitpicking and being petty? Maybe. But if Sam Rothstein can nitpick an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin, then allow me the same courtesy to nitpick the fact he sounds New York Italian, playing a robotic Jewish guy from Chicago who thinks he's Frank Sinatra, JFK, Sam Giancana, and Errol Flynn all wrapped into one.
Who's he think he is, Errol Flynn?
Again, despite the New York bias, De Niro's performance here is up there in this iconic performance as the grandiose mobbed-up casino executive whose ego gets the better of him as he tries to get the Vegas showgirl to love him the way he's obsessed not in love with her.
Ginger?
The walking, talking, living and breathing red flag on wheels that is Ginger McKenna, played by Sharon Stone.
I had a few games on the way back.
And based on the real-life Jerry McKee, is one of the great mid-90s cinematic moments in recent pop culture history.
I want a family.
You got the wrong girl.
I can change her.
Hey, please.
The sassy BPD chick who by default inveigles Sam Rothstein into unsuccessfully trying to make an honest woman out of her due to his gargantuan ego and minuscule self-esteem is a performance for the ages by Stone and a warning to all men to think with the big head upstairs and not the other thing downstairs. The character may not have the same seduction as Stone's Catherine Chamel in Basic Instinct or some of the charm of Annette Bening's Virginia Hill in Bugsy.
Sweet talking, charm oozing, happy fellow.
The other Vegas mob movie.
He doesn't respect money.
But the honesty in its portrayal of her dysfunction and pathological mayhem is probably what helps to cement Casino as an all-time movie. The lying, the gaslighting, the triangulation, Chicago accuracy or not, Stone brings De Niro to his apex.
You're teary-eyed, huh?
Just before he passed his peak. You even forget she's not his type in real life, as he never dates white chocolate, strictly brown sugar, due to their on-screen poisonous chemistry.
You ate my guts!
It was always going to be unrequited love and nothing more, as she always saw him as a human ATM machine before anything else. You know who her type is? Andrew Tate is her type.
Pimps have a very, very important role in the whole industry. And overall, all we do is provide motivational support.
I mean that. You're going to be situated just right in Vegas.
Of course she's not going to look up to someone she just uses. The James Woods character.
The pimp from Beverly Hills.
Who uses her as a tool to drain men's wallets. Of course she's more likely to look up to him.
You wanna talk it over now?
Casino might play down the Chicago component and blur all the real-life Midwestern mobsters, but this toxic love triangle depiction of Woods, De Niro and Stone is just cinematic 90s gold that... Kevin Cosa Nostra. Casino sucked, mate. Not authentic. In real life, the Chicago outfit was up there with the 5 New York families.
The Chicago outfit is the strongest mafia family operating in Las Vegas.
Nicky Santoro was really Tony Spilotro.
Watch yourself. Watch yourself.
And Remo Gadji was a composite of Joey Aiupa, Tony Accardo, and Jackie Cerrone. Not to mention Joey the Clown Lombardo.
I'll take a picture.
I hear you, Kev, especially on the Chicago front, but ultimately, Scorsese's making a mainstream Hollywood movie aimed to be marketable to the masses, on the strength of a bunch of New York Italian movies he'd done prior. Doesn't matter, my knowledge supersedes everything. I read the bloody books, mate. I done a DNA test, and 43.9997% of my DNA originally comes from Southern Italy, Sicily.
But after I did my DNA test, 44% Greek, Southern Italian. I'm from Sicily.
Who can refuse Don Kevin Cosa Nostra? I respect the fact you've read all the books, I know you're the brains of Bournemouth, but Casino is a 90s crime classic before anything else, and you ain't Italian. But I like you, so on the whole Chicago note, let's look at the man who actually tried to sound like he was from the Windy City. I mean back home, years ago.
I've been trying to reach you. You're tougher to get than the president.
So Pesci, I'll get straight to the point on this one. Basically, I got mixed feelings here. On the one hand, no one can play the real-life Tony Spilotro like Pesci did, and he did do it well.
Tell him to go fuck himself, you
On the other hand, the whole Nicky Santoro character felt a bit forced.
A cigarette holder? I lost control.
So bear with me here. First of all, the excessive swearing.
He swore a lot.
You're
We all swore, but not as much as he did in the movie.
Which is problem.
The wigs, not the iconic one with the grey streak, but the side parting one was just off. More so than Goodfellas, the forced Chicago accent.
So now, on top of everything else, I gotta make sure no...
1 minute he's in full swing, I'm from the Midwest, not the East Coast.
They were degenerate gamblers.
Then other times he sounds like vintage Joe Pesci again.
That way you're gonna go. Get that little...
And when he does try, is that actually Chicago?
Even your own wife.
Or some weird hybrid of upstate New York mixed with northwest rural Pennsylvania, meshed with he's been watching Angels with Filthy Faces once too often.
Too bad AC ain't in charge no more.
You motherfucker, you.
Oh, but wait, you're from England, you don't know anything. Fine. It just sounds like he's trying too hard. Accent-wise, persona, he may sound a bit more nasally.
Diamond, that Lester Diamond incident.
But he just talks too fast. People from Chicago are a bit more laid back.
Very important thing for you to remember is going to be my name.
On the one hand. On the other hand, he took the source material seriously. He's the only one trying to sound like the true life characters.
You guys gotta cut it out, I'm warning you now.
Especially in the deleted scenes.
Now the guy gets out of his car, Anthony Boy runs over, grabs him around.
Remember that time when Johnny Boy tried to whack that guy? You can knock him all you like. He made a serious artistic effort, whereas everybody else around him still thinks they're in Goodfellas.
Let's talk turkey here, how about?
Essentially undermining what he's trying to accomplish. Nothing exemplifies this like his quote,
Kid brother.
He's from back home years ago, Scorsese code language for Chicago, but his middle-aged kid brother looks and sounds like the Sicilian dude from not even Brooklyn but the Bronx. The Arthur Avenue accent.
Arthur Ray was an Italian neighborhood.
Go on.
You always figure.
But he's supposed to be from Chicago. Heck, the real-life brother, Michael Spilatro, even featured in an episode of Magnum P.I.
Stand clear. Take it easy. I just want to...
So we now know how he was.
He doesn't want to talk.
But in Casino, it's the guy with the Chaz Parmentary accent.
Take a pill, RoboCop.
Pesci-wise look. He did overall capture the essence of the little guy sent to Vegas to keep everyone in line, no doubt. It wouldn't be Casino without Pesci. Does he deserve credit for his effort? 100%. Just for me, this isn't quite in his top 3 performances. That's Goodfellas, Home Alone and My Cousin Vinny in my opinion. After that, fine. Casino above everything else he's done, so sorry about that, Joseph. Had to have that little dig. Loved you in Moonwalker.
Remember that.
I just feel everybody who thought they were hard loved this role back in the day because he stabs someone in the neck with a pen and sticks a guy's head in a vice. It's like Scarface. Vintage Pacino, no doubt. Highly entertaining, but that's the role and movie that appeals the most to bozos and meatheads. Same thing here, only this Nicky Santoro, Tony Spilatro adaptation is a composite of various brutal Chicago guys, specifically an emotionally volatile psychopath named Larry Newman.
Are you acquainted with Mr. Spilatro? Very slightly.
A Jewish trust fund dude from the Chicago suburbs who killed 3 diner workers because he was shortchanged a couple of dollars, then only does 11 years on a 125-year sentence because of his family connections, then hooks up with Spilatro's number 2 guy in jail, Frankie Carlotta.
This is a man that had an IQ of 169. He used to do 1,000 sit-ups a day.
I think Larry Newman was worse than any one of the worst they had in the outfit.
I mean, this psychopath is a fucking lunatic.
If he had to cut you up in pieces to get rid of you, he could do that.
He ends up working with Spilatro's crew in Vegas, a guy who lives off his grandfather's money, yet goes out on heists and scores, and will kill you for looking at him the wrong way.
They're laughing at him.
But sounds more like a corrupt union official than a mobster.
If he's involved, it would be news to me because I have no knowledge of it.
Is there organized crime influence in the Teamsters Union?
Not to my knowledge.
And looks like a bus driver from King's Cross. Now this guy really was a few French fries short of a Happy Meal.
In no way, shape or form.
The point I'm making here is the whole Chicago tough guy psycho role is all put on the shoulders of the Pesci character. In a sense, Pesci has too much individual weight to carry in his depiction.
He was never volatile like that in a public place. He'd have somebody else do it before he'd do it.
Having said that, the real-life Tony Spilatro in the late 70s at Club Jubilation in Vegas got into an argument with a cocktail waitress who'd spilt a drink on him. He calls her the C-word, he demands an apology, she says she only apologizes to gentlemen. 2 days later, she's reported as missing in the morning papers.
It's in all the papers.
Overall, Pesci captures the essence of the little Napoleonic guy, high on his own supply of Las Vegas and juice, produced megalomania. It's just Goodfellas made a point of depicting all the tangential players in the extended world of the New York criminal network. Casino composites the hell out of Chicago and doesn't even mention the city these guys are from.
Never mentions the word Chicago.
Back home. They never said Chicago.
All they'll say about it is back home. Back home.
Back home years ago.
So as we know, The Godfather 1 and 2, not 3,
No, Dad,
are some of the greatest movies ever, based on the real-life 5 New York families, as they should have been. New York is the epicenter of that world. Right up there in the history of the American Mafia, however, is the Chicago Mafia family, known as the Chicago Outfit.
Mr. Ricardo, in 1931,
I declined to answer.
what grounds?
On the grounds that it may tend to incriminate or lead me into something.
As partially mentioned in Casino.
Remo Gaggi, the outfit's top boss.
People confuse it, however, and say, oh, that's the old Al Capone gang from Prohibition times.
What was your association with Al Capone?
Just friendly. Hello and how are you?
The real Italian Mafia stuff comes from New York.
New York. They knew I was a Mafia member. Isn't that a apple state?
When in reality, New York-born Neapolitan Al Capone was made into the Americanized Sicilian Mafia in 1928 by New York-based Sicilian boss of all bosses, Giuseppe Joe the Boss Masseria.
Boss of all the boss.
What became known as the Chicago Outfit was an evolution of two things: the Capone gang being sworn into the Sicilian Mafia operating in New York, and the absorption of the Sicilian Mafia operating in Chicago. There was a making ceremony. You did have to be Italian to be made. It's the Mafia.
Italian Mafia there in Chicago.
They were just more low-key than flashy New York.
New York.
Due to the mistakes of their first major boss, the ultra-flashy New Yorker Al Capone, guys like Paul Ricca and Tony Accardo were obsessed with staying out of the limelight. Their front boss, Sam Giancana,
He loved beautiful women, like the singer Phyllis McGuire. Giancana was also a friend of Frank Sinatra's.
not so much. Las Vegas initially had a big East Coast and Midwest mafia presence, especially in the 1950s. By the time of Casino, in the 70s, Chicago was the dominant force in Vegas.
The Chicago outfit is the strongest mafia family operating in Las Vegas.
See, the thing you need to understand is, in the 70s, the Chicago outfit was skimming Las Vegas. In the 40s, the Chicago outfit was skimming Hollywood.
Frank Nitti and his Chicago outfit took Hollywood by storm. Nitti put the squeeze on Hollywood studios.
If they're extorting studios, the studios aren't going to then make a bunch of movies about the Italian organized crime outfit in Chicago, right? Whereas, especially after Godfather, New York became a thing. So by the 90s, it's just a pattern where they downplay it. It's not that they think Capone's going to jump out of the grave with a Tommy gun and shoot them for saying the Chicago outfit in the real characters. For whatever reason, there was a legal decision. The studio told Scorsese, you've got to take Chicago out of it, and why don't you just change it to Detroit or Cleveland? And he was like, hell no. So credit to Scorsese, he fought tooth and nail to say, look, I'm not going to do Detroit or Cleveland, I'll just say back home years ago. As much as I want to knock him for New York in it, at the same time, he did fight to keep it as close to the true story as possible. He did the best he could do. The problem is, this trend that already existed in Hollywood of a New York bias towards both Italian-American depictions and Italian-American mafia depictions. The trend itself, I would say, really got kick-started with Happy Days.
You do something to a marching band? I had to run over that thing 3 or 4 times.
You've got the Fonz, the Italian-American character from Milwaukee with a New York accent.
Now my business is looking for you!
And then you've got Harold Cunningham with a typical Chicago accent.
Look, I told them I was going to Tahiti and they laughed at me.
But the both of them are from the same city.
Milwaukee.
By the time of Casino, you can't expect too much, right? But the real thing with Casino where it gets a bit much is the Kansas City depiction.
This freaking head.
Again.
I think Chris is a freaking head. They trust that scumbag. I don't. I can't take this no more.
Come on, man. Like Kansas City's Midwest, there's almost a southern twang.
Waste our taxpayers' money. They ride around the market here.
And you've got them speaking like they're from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. That's where it gets a bit too much.
He brings us back 2 suitcases from the Tinges.
Chris, him, Butch, Sal, people around here.
But I will say this though, the beatdown scene at the end, where the Santoro brothers, based on the Spilatro brothers, are beaten to death as opposed to a clean execution. That kind of exemplifies the Chicago crime syndicate. When they want to make an example out of someone, it's typically a brutal torture before murder.
They suffered agonizing deaths, far from the clean executions of mafia movies.
So, granted, that's what really happened, but the way Scorsese plays that scene...
They made an example of him and his brother.
No music. The criticism that he likes to glorify this lifestyle in these movies, but that scene there, I think most people would have watched that scene and then thought to themselves, oh shit, Imagine if that was me. In terms of the Remo Gadget character, who's the boss of the outfit, and he's like a composite of a whole bunch of guys, maybe he didn't physically look like Joey Aiupa, who he's mainly based on, or even Tony Accardo, but aside from the first name Remo sounding a bit off, he did have that grandfatherly Godfather persona, right?
These are the Godfathers.
Make sure it's something quiet.
That was my only thing. It's like, did you have to call him Remo? And could you had maybe one or two other actors from Chicago? I know it's a Scorsese thing. I know he's got his New York, New Jersey actors he loves to work with.
They were all New York, New Jersey actors portraying Chicago outfit guys.
When you got a director that's from New York and you got everybody in the movie, even the secondary actors, they're all from New York.
Coming from New York.
My thing would have just been, look, keep Frank Vincent, keep Pasquale Caggiano as Remo Gadget, just call him Joe Gadget if you want, and maybe get one number 2 guy, a Chicago actor, like, for example, John Capodici. John Capodici's in a bunch of New York movies. He never even tries to put on a New York accent, but he plays New York characters.
It's terrific. Yeah, it's good. Oh, we're going to be at the bar.
But you're not going to put him in Casino.
I'm the only Chicago guy in the movie.
Where you going, Jack?
There is a bit of a kind of Scorsese, colourful Italian characters, whereas the real-life Chicago outfit, they just look like the bad guys from the movies, as opposed to flamboyant New York characters.
Where'd you get this suit, Grandpa? Gangsters arrest?
No comment, sir.
And I shot him almost by the ear and back of the head.
Now bear with me, I'm going to focus on why Casino is a classic Vegas-wise, but Chicago accuracy, every time I watch Casino, I need to watch Thief. Yes, Casino is a Vegas movie first of all, but its main character after DeNiro is a jewel thief.
Go along on the heist just for the fun of it.
Like Michael Mann's crime classic, Thief.
I'm a thief. I've been in prison, all right?
So what?
James Caan plays a high-end thief.
You've been putting down 2-3 scores a month.
Here's the thing with Thief. Yes, you had another New Yorker in the main role.
Get the fuck off my car.
But that's the only movie that captures the essence of the Chicago underworld in that time period. Filmed on location in Chicago, but for me, Chicago Italian-American and ex-outfit connected burglar John Santucci as a corrupt cop.
Sergeant Urizzi.
I'm Italian.
That's what actually makes it feel like the only time you're watching that Chicago kind of mob world brought to life.
How they own restaurants, retail stores,
shopping centers.
The big crossover between Casino and Thief that you probably don't know is the crime boss Leo in Thief is a composite of real-life mob fence of stolen goods Leo Rugendorf and one-time mob acting boss Felix Milwaukee Phil Aldericio.
Aldericio was a particularly vicious guy.
Aldericio in real life was at one point Tony Spilatro's boss and was the guy who sent him out to Vegas.
Milwaukee Phil sent him there. Aldericio.
Yet in the movie, again, the one direct superior to the Santoro character is again the over-composite Remo Gadget, who Santoro kind of pals around with and whatever, but in reality, Spilatro was scared shitless of Aldericio.
Milwaukee Phil. The guy was nuts. He was a mean man. Tony was nervous around him.
And Spilatro himself was a killer and a torturer. The scene where he puts the guy's head in the vice, he just done that to impress Aldericio in real life.
Put this Irishman's head in the vice while the old man was eating pasta. He says he didn't even bother him.
Also, Thief propelled Mann to produce the TV series Crime Story.
This week on Crime Story.
Which is also based on the real-life Tony Spilatro character. Only it was set a decade earlier in the early mid-60s. Arguably, the mob's golden age in Vegas, that whole Rat Pack era. It hasn't aged that well, but did help propel ex-Chicago cop Dennis Farina's acting career 2 years later with another Vegas movie.
He gets what he wants, I get what I want.
So for me, there's kind of three Vegas eras where the mob's kind of relevant. You got the 40s with Bugsy when they're just building these casinos.
In the middle of the f***ing Mojave Desert.
Then you got that kind of late 50s, 60s Rat Pack era depicted in The Godfather 1 and 2, more so in the original Ocean's 11.
The arm, that's the slot machine arm.
Just a beginning.
We're not the sole owners of our casinos.
If you really want to think about that 70s era that Casino depicts in terms of Las Vegas, it's got to be Diamonds Are Forever.
Hi, I'm Plenty.
But of course you are.
The last proper James Bond movie that Sean Connery done. Vegas at that point is more of an actual city than just the kind of bustling kind of gambling resort as it is in Ocean's 11, the original. By the time of Diamonds Are Forever, in the early 70s, it looks like an actual functioning city. tourists, it's not just high-end gamblers by the time of Diamonds Are Forever. It's now becoming a place for the everyman, not just the Sam Giancanas of the world.
Las Vegas, Giancana was one of its princes.
Diamonds Are Forever was a contemporary film that depicts the Vegas that Casino as a period piece depicts.
They had bookies, pimps, and drug dealers I could shake down.
Then you got Midnight Run in 1988.
I don't understand the problem with you two.
Probably the only mob film from the 80s, just 2 years after that whole era's finished.
This wouldn't happen again.
As a contemporary film, not a period piece.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Depicts Vegas as this kind of mobbed up place.
Will you get out of here?
Another film you had from 1988 was of course Rain Man.
You are beautiful, man.
Same year, another road movie like Midnight Run. It's not totally in Vegas, but the Vegas scenes, right? You still get a sense of that old school Vegas. It's 88 where guys working in a casino, not mob guys, but
Take your queen. Sir, please don't touch the cards.
Your sister's ass.
old school Midwest, East Coast guys, Jewish guys, Italian guys.
Call the eye in the sky. Real special something. By the way, I'm Billy Sherman.
And as depicted in Casino,
It's all been arranged just for us to get your money.
the casino exists to make money, not to just give out money. It's not a charity.
Take him over to the office and verify him.
Would you come with me, please? Good day at the tables when you accuse them of illegal activities.
Close your mouth.
Close your mouth and go home. And those are the best odds you're going to see for a while.
Look what they did to my hand, man.
Overall, I'd say Casino looks back at the Vegas era depicted in Diamonds Are Forever with a fantastic sense of that's how Vegas was in the 70s. I think Scorsese has made the definitive Las Vegas movie, at least in terms of the 20th century.
Mr. Frank Rosenthal!
Good. $500 to get me off there.
Champagne on ice, huh?
Town will never be the same. And if you order room service, you're lucky if you get it by Thursday. And that's that.
December 1st, 1979.
The best things I ever have are always with my husband.
Tough Tony Spilotro. He ruled the streets of Las Vegas with a deadly fist through the 1970s and 1980s. Watch yourself.
The real-life Sam Ace Rothstein was Frank Lefty Rosenthal. Born and raised on Chicago's West Side, Rosenthal would eventually end up a top-earning illegal bookmaker for the Chicago outfit. Rosenthal's association with Chicago outfit bigwigs such as Fiore Bucchieri, due to his ability to generate big money, provided him a level of power he otherwise could never have attained.
Cannot happen, would not happen.
Once sent out to Vegas to run 4 major casinos, not just one, he would establish himself in more ways than one as Mr. Las Vegas.
I speak for the entire state of Nevada.
Despite not having a cool demeanor like Robert DeNiro.
Good evening, everyone.
At which time he would fall for the Las Vegas showgirl Jerry McKee.
Have you been involved in dance contests before?
Yes, I have.
Portrayed in the movie as Ginger McKenna, the Sherman Oaks, LA native who already had a child with the psychological controller Lenny Marmor, depicted in the movie as Lester Diamond.
Diamond, that Lester Diamond incident.
And thus Rosenthal married a woman who really did have more red flags than the homestander Old Trafford. In what would eventually become a fatal love triangle. An old acquaintance of Rosenthal would be sent out to Vegas to watch his back and protect the Chicago outfit's Las Vegas skim, rising Chicago mobster Anthony Tony the Ant Spilotro.
You guys gotta cut it out, I'm warning you now.
Born and raised on Chicago's west side and raised between the Grand and Ogden neighborhood on the near west side and around the Montclair neighborhood on the far west side. One of 6 boys, Spilotro had been a juvenile delinquent and aspiring criminal from a young age. The little guy was liked by the higher-ups for his ambition and penchant for violence.
Do anything to anybody and had no conscience.
Initially sent to Vegas, primarily to protect the skim, at the beginning of the 70s, by the end of the decade, Spilotro, despite only being a made man or soldier in the Chicago mob, was essentially the crime boss of Las Vegas.
Spilotro set up his own street rackets in Las Vegas.
With Mr. Legit flamboyance Frank Rosenthal running the casinos for the outfit, and Spilotro running the streets for himself under the flag of the outfit. The last era of the mob in Vegas was destined to end with a bang. Literally as well as figuratively. Yeah. As depicted in Casino, Spilotro, a man known to have difficulty keeping it in his pants, began a romantic affair with his childhood acquaintance's wife, Jerry McKee. The old-timers back home, once hearing the rumors, were not happy due to this mob code transgression, among many other things.
These old-timers,
Don't be fooling around with nobody else's girlfriend, that's all.
they don't like any f***ing around with the other guy's wives.
As the 80s developed, the reign of Lefty Rosenthal as a top casino man and Spilatro as a top rackets man would abruptly conclude. The unsuccessful bombing of the TV man, more than likely orchestrated not by his once friend now nemesis, nor the powers that be in Chicago, but either the Kansas City mob headed by the Chiavellas or the Milwaukee Mafia headed by Frank Balistrieri.
Mr. Balistrieri, what is your date of birth, please?
It's none of your business.
As both blamed Rosenthal for their legal and financial troubles in the City of Sin. As the indictments came down, leading members of the Chicago, Kansas City and Milwaukee Mafia were now facing considerable jail time. And like the movie, the consequences were real.
At least 4 people saw Alan Dorfman
gunned down in a Chicago parking lot, apparently so he could never tell what he knew about the Teamster mob connection in Las Vegas.
Except for Mr. Rosenthal, who years later it turns out was a CI, a confidential informant, with his wife now deceased. An attempt on his life unsuccessful, he returned to Florida where he'd been prior to Vegas and not San Diego as depicted in the movie. For Spilatro, after years of legal trouble, thought of mostly by his lawyer Oscar Goodman.
You said in court that you didn't.
No comments by Mr. Spilatro.
And years of bragging how he was going to be the boss of the Midwest but run it all from Vegas.
They were going to put him in jail one way or another.
His vicious antics would be turned on him in 1986, lured to a basement in Bensonville, suburban Chicago, under the guise he'd be promoted to the mafia position of capo or crew boss, and his brother would be made into the crime organization, only to be met by all high-ranking members of the Chicago outfit.
They see all these individuals who they all know,
who despite rank,
all the individuals are wearing gloves,
would participate in the fatal beating of Tony and his brother Michael, who was more collateral damage than anything else. The bodies of the brothers then moved to a cornfield in Indiana and buried, only to be discovered days later by the diggers being frightened off by onlookers. More murders ensued as punishment for the botched burial. The last of the Spilatro brothers' hole-in-the-wall gang to still be operating in the 90s, Herbie Blitzstein, would be assassinated in his own home in 1997 by members of the Buffalo crime family and the leftovers of the Jack Dragna LA-based Mickey Mouse crime family.
Buffalo crime families with West Coast crime figures
in an attempt to take over his relative Mickey Mouse rackets. In an era where the LA-based Bloods and Crips were going at it in Vegas, and rapper Tupac Shakur would be caught up in the mayhem, the last mob hit in Vegas would take place. Years later, when in this century, Chicago outfit member Nicholas Calabrese would turn against his older controlling brother Frank Calabrese, the beans were spilled in regards to the brutal murder and a whole lot more. As the family secrets trial concluded, with many being sent to die in prison, the man who both participated in and orchestrated the Spilatro murders, John No-Nose DeFronzo, remained a free man.
Pat Spilatro said he wanted to know why the government hadn't picked you up.
I don't know anything about it. Sorry.
And said to be the last real boss of the once all-powerful Chicago outfit criminal organization. The only reason he was never indicted, like Frank Rosenthal before him, No-Nose DeFronzo was more likely than not a CI, confidential informant.
I don't know anything about it. Sorry.
Casino, first and foremost, is part of that 90s wave of crime movies. Witty, punchy Tarantino films, Scorsese and DeNiro in the second phase of their careers, all of that, for the most part. Goodfellas is seen as the mafia masterpiece from that Scorsese-De Niro collaboration, whereas Casino is held in high regards but seen as inferior. The thing is, Casino developed its own cult following based on the Pesci character, the De Niro Stone dynamic, the Las Vegas 70s setting, the excessive violence, which was adapted from real-life occurrences. My only thing is, it's the only mainstream film to depict the Chicago outfit, yet Scorsese makes it a little New York-centric. But overall, people want to see an entertaining gangster movie about glitz and glamour, exacerbating the mob's ego and grandiosity. And Casino does accomplish that with great acting, great editing, and great music. Having seen it recently at the cinema with a sold-out audience,
and thank you,
you would have thought it's a comedy the way people are laughing the whole way through.
They won! What's a casino? People gotta win sometime.
Me, made a night of it, went to Japes, had a Chicago deep dish pizza. Great experience. Seeing it in the cinema recently helped remind me why this movie became beloved by many from an entertainment perspective.
Look how many blueberries your muffin has and how many mine has.
So much so that when this movie came out and depicted the brutal murders which have been unsolved in real life, I personally believe the feds went after the culprits in the age of terror when the Chicago outfit was almost done, because of the impact and legacy of this movie.
Certainly is the end of an era of mafia men with funny names.
The real-life number 2 guy Frank Carlotta, who was a technical advisor on Casino, advising production,
jerk off, we say jag off.
You're going jag off.
Went on to have his own YouTube page, Coffee with Carlotta.
She played that scene.
Show Seminoff Orchestra.
Took 22 takes. Marty was going to fire her.
DiCaprio in America.
Before he passed away, he provided a bunch, and I mean a bunch of insight into the real-life story behind the movie. Casino years later holds up as one of the top mob movies of all time. DeNiro and Pesci at the tail end of their primes, and Sharon Stone providing her second greatest performance after Basic Instinct. The aura of Las Vegas, before it went super commercial in the subsequent years, sits with nostalgic fondness in the imagination of the audience's mind.
Sorry, Mr. Plane.
Hey, better here than up there.
Casino is both mesmerizing and brilliant, as much as it is darkly depressing and tragic.
I knew I'd never see her again.
You've been watching Mobflix Fridays, the hottest joint in town. If you've made it till the end, well, thank you very much. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.
And that's that.